Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. Very welcome to this fire chat on the sidelines of Haptics. We have extremely exciting technologies this year in our healthcare stand, and two such very exciting and innovative solutions. And their representatives are with us today. So welcome, Kais, and welcome, John. Thank you for participating at Haptics this year with us. So Kais, over to you. Could you introduce yourself and your solution?
Thank you, Pratik, and thank you for the invitation to be on this fantastic event. So I'm Gijs Limbeter, one of the co-founders of SenseLab, and we enable touch in VR. And virtual reality. So if you're immersed in this virtual environment with your headset, you put on our gloves, and at the moment you grasp an object in virtual reality, you feel restriction and vibration. And in that sense, you know how to behave in this virtual environment in the same way as you would do in real life. And obviously this has a lot of healthcare applications, such as in rehabilitation, in healthcare training, and eventually also in controlling healthcare robots from a distance. But we'll dive into that in the remaining part of this fireside chat.
That's pretty amazing, pretty exciting. Good stuff. Sean, over to you now. Perhaps you can introduce yourself and the solution you're representing this year.
Of course, thank you very much for having me here, Pratik, and great to meet you guys as well. Great to see such great innovation in the healthcare space. So I'm Jean-Marc, WeWalk's Head of Research and Development. And well, visually impaired people for centuries have had to rely on the standard white cane. It's literally a stick to get around. It's a great tool, but the thing is, it hasn't really evolved to meet the technological advancements of the 21st century. And so at WeWalk, we've invented a smart cane and smartphone application to get visually impaired people from point A to point B safely, effectively, and independently. We're a time-best invention and an Amazon Startup of the Year, and now we hope to be expanding even further to work with Etisalat in the MENA region. So we're excited to be here and to show off our technology.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, again, a very innovative solution, I think, catered towards those who are visually challenged. This is a bright example of how technology is quickly evolving to address different subsections of the society, even in the healthcare sector, and addressing some of the niche areas. So this is great. And I think with this, we can hopefully going forward include more and more marginalized people from a healthcare standpoint back into the mainstream and try to address their issues and their problems. So this is fantastic. Kais, a little bit, I would seek your input on how do you see your technology playing a role in healthcare going forward?
I think, first to also get back into making healthcare accessible. So as our technology is today, and also the showcase that we have here at the Haptics booth is about rehabilitation. So we have now here a training for people who are partially paralyzed due to a stroke. And if you have overcome this, then you can have a lot of training to relearn your movement, but that's a quite hard and challenging process. And having a virtual environment like virtual reality can really help you in empowering yourself on that training. So you are immersed in like a kitchen environment, and you need to do all types of tasks of daily living with your impaired hand. And every step is monitored. So every progress that you make is being monitored. And in that sense, it also engages you with the training itself. And the best thing is you can do it at home. You don't need an actual physical therapist to be next to you in order to be trained. So in that sense, we enable the amount of training that you have in a home-based environment or in setting where you don't physically need to have a physician next to you. And I think that ties in really into the combination of the panelists that we have here today.
Oh, this is great. So we know that globally chronic diseases are increasing. and their prevalence is increasing. And so often as terminal complications to chronic diseases, people develop stroke and disabilities. So this is a great solution. We try to target rehabilitation because we understand that early rehabilitation is absolutely critical, right? And then with shortage of healthcare resources globally, patients don't now have to entirely depend upon a physical therapist to visit them and start early rehabilitation process. With technology such as yours, I think we can address that and start the rehabilitation sooner than later, which probably will improve clinical outcomes and limit the disability. So again, congratulations on your technology. So a great feat, I believe, in healthcare. Just lifting ourselves a little bit and having a bird's eye view here. What do you think, Jean, would be some of the emerging technologies going forward that are going to shape how healthcare evolves in future?
That's a very, very good question there, Pratik. And I think healthcare is multifaceted. So healthcare isn't just about diagnostics, right? It's about how can we better understand the function, then how do we improve the functional performance of the individual? So in the perspective of someone that's visually impaired, firstly, how do we, intervene and reduce the prevalence of visual impairment? But then, of course, unfortunately, there is no cure to every visual impairment, just like as with Sense Club and people with chronic conditions, it's only increasing. The population that need technology like ours is only getting bigger and bigger. And so we focus more on the functional aspect. So, okay, we've understood that human capacity is variable across individuals. What is the right technology to now address these shortcomings? And I really think that's where healthcare is going. No longer just diagnosing and intervening, but how do we create technology that actually is decent, that integrates with the person's everyday life, and that actually has a real impact on the end goal in life, which is functional performance, employment, seeing family and friends, mobility. And so with WeWalk, at least, we're trying to follow that trend. So from the very basic foundations of WeWalk, yes, we improve the person's functional performance by delivering obstacle detection, better safety when navigating, an accessible navigation system that gives people turn-by-turn navigation. And in the end, that leads to a cognitive and psychological improvement in mobility and wayfinding. But then, of course, as an organization, we realized that there's so much we could do with a connected platform like WeWalk, especially given that we talk about things like AI and IoT. And that's why WeWalk connects to a smartphone. So right now, thanks to the services such as those powered by Tisselat, our users can access this navigation system, can access mobility tracking, which tells the user how their mobility is progressing over time. And by collecting this data, thanks to the connected smartphone, thanks to WeWalk sensors, we can feed back to healthcare professionals. We can feed back to the user themselves about how their mobility is progressing over time. Again, this is a feature add for WeWalk. It's a value add, but it's a great example of how sort of one device, in our opinion, focuses on the fundamental aspects of healthcare, which is improving functional performance, but can also assist in the long-term diagnostics of everyday performance of someone that's visually impaired.
Absolutely, great points there. So, one of the ways we measure quality of life in the healthcare space is by something we call as DALY. So that stands for Disability Adjusted Life Years. Right. And so I think it's critical to address, the quality of life in general and not just merely focus on curing diseases. Jean, thanks. That was some extremely good points there. Kais, I would ask for your indulgence. What do you think? Where are we heading in the future with digital technologies in healthcare?
Yeah, I think the common ground also in this panel is called haptics. And I want to emphasize, because we're with two haptics companies on this particular component, and also that we've recently seen that the Nobel Prize for healthcare this year was to two American researchers who were researching how people touch inside how the skin works with touch. So we know like visually and like audio, that those are kind of known areas in digital innovation. But we now are moving, especially when technologies like 5G will be implementing, towards something that we call the tactile internet. And with the ability of tactile internet, really like that third sense, or that sense of touch, will be opening a lot of opportunities within also the healthcare digitalization part. So as giving better cues to visually impaired people, as being capable of actually feeling things, because healthcare is a high precision industry, feeling things from a distance, that will give such an amazing opportunities moving forward to digitalization in healthcare.
Absolutely, this is great. And I'm so excited actually to be part of Etisalat and Etisalat Digital, because Etisalat is truly leading the way here by providing extremely fast internet connection. Now, second year in a row, we've won the fastest mobile internet, been awarded that second year in a row. Also our 5G rollout is pretty much on the way, and we've accomplished quite a bit, a lot more to go though. But we are on the way to, I think, becoming one of the fastest 5G rollouts in the region. And these technologies, which are underlying technologies, 5G and AI and Internet of Things, they really are empowering, solutions like yours to do your innovation bit and build on that and make use of these underlying infrastructure elements to then come up with such innovative solutions that eventually is going to benefit a lot of people out there. So this is great stuff. Now, just to again go back to how virtual reality is playing an increasingly important role in healthcare. So other than the use case that you guys are working on, Kais, do you see other use cases in virtual reality specific to healthcare?
Yeah, so other use cases that we're working on is also in training. So training of surgeons, but also training of or more like generic healthcare workers, it's like nurses and such. So for instance, to take surgery as an example, in order to train a surgeon, you need like dead corpses to learn them how to perform certain surgeries, which is obviously a little bit of an ethical question, but also very costly. And with technologies like virtual reality, you can really simulate real life environments for these training purposes. So you can both win on ethical, but also on costs. So that is also like training healthcare professionals, as we said, with the shortage of workers already, is also a really big challenge. And technology like virtual reality combined with haptic technology can really make a big cost saving and time saving part within that training environment.
Absolutely, that's actually an excellent example of how virtual reality can be used, and the better we train our upcoming generation of physicians, the better they will serve humanity. So this is good stuff. Back to you, Jean. What are your thoughts on how your product is going to evolve in the coming years? And are you guys working on other use cases other than the VWalk cane that you just mentioned?
Indeed, we are. That's a really good question. And I also want to agree with Gijs here on the importance of VR coming up in future. I mean, it's so important for other organizations, not just ourselves, to grasp these advancements in technology and use them to revolutionize assistive technology, which has existed for years without being improved on. So things like the white cane, for instance, for us, we found that there was such an analog device. It could have easily benefited from AI, IoT connectivity. But what we found, at least on our end, is that whilst VR is an incredible technology and it has its applications, because we're a primarily visually driven organization, we wanted to make use of other senses. And so we went to haptics for obstacle detection, and audio is a big part of our application. So how do we audio feedback about turn-by-turn directions, informing the user of nearby bus stops, even our exploration mode, which reads out, where nearby restaurants are, for instance. So it's about different companies coming together and trying to compensate for one individual sensory loss by creating technology that empowers and enhances and augments their other sensory capacities. So here in Sense Club, there's such an incredible, I can see at least, as a stranger to their technology, such a great advancement for people that would benefit from haptics and visual stimulation through VR. For us, for instance, it's a different story. We are working with reduced sight, so we have to focus on the haptics and the audio. And for us in the future, there's loads to come. So again, it's all about innovating and keeping yourself open. I think that's an important thing for any tech company out there. It's how do you build a product with a good foundation and good user base, but how do you innovate? And that's why at WeWalk, we consider our product to be the personal hub for visually impaired individuals. So it's got its defined feature set of navigation, exploration, obstacle detection, but it's also got a dedicated team and innovation and R&D team where we keep innovating on this platform. We keep trying to find new use cases for the sensors. And I dived into one of these use cases previously using WeWalk's built-in gyroscope, compass, and accelerometer to actually act as a diagnostics device, like a Fitbit for visually impaired people, if you'd like. So long-term diagnostics tracking, then feeding back that information to the visually impaired individual and to their ophthalmologists and optometrists, for instance. Another example of how we're innovating with WeWalk is in future, by mid next year, hopefully, we're working on a project right now with Imperial College and one of our big organizations in the UK for blind people, the RNIP. We're working on an indoor navigation solution with WeWalk because of the data we can pull from the sensors. And this, application can obviously help malls in the Emirates, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, a great market. But again, the point is, we can copy and paste this approach to other medical technologies, to any other startup here, where as long as you meet the needs of people today, whilst keeping the door open to meet the needs for people 5, 6, 7 years into the future, chances are you've got a good piece of technology that's going to actually make a difference in the healthcare sector. And that really is our stance at WeWalk.
Excellent, excellent. It's great to be an enabler in all of this. As a telecom, and as a digital solutions provider as well with our IoT technologies and IoT platform, I think what we can and we are enabling is patient-generated health data, right? So we want to collect this data from patients' natural environment and not just a snapshot when a patient visits a doctor, which is not their natural environment, right? So this data that we collect from patients' natural environment, or patient-generated health data, as we call it, is incredibly useful now in driving insights into how the patient behaves and their bodies behave when they go back to their day-to-day life. And this then helps in decision-making for clinicians and healthcare providers to intervene appropriately and to provide or prescribe the right therapeutics. So this is great stuff. And I believe that's all the time we have today, but I want to thank our audience for joining us and listening to us, and our panelists, both of you, Kais and John. Pretty exciting solutions. Congratulations, and thank you for being with us. We have more exciting solutions, ladies and gentlemen, on our stands this year. So please do visit us, and we'll be extremely proud and happy to host you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Great to meet you, Kais, and thank you for hosting, Pratik. We look forward to meeting you all at GITEX.
Absolutely.
Bye, Sean. Nice to meet you, and thank you for hosting, Pratik. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Pleasure. Absolutely. Pleasure.